Imagine wandering into the darkest corners of the internet, where reality and nightmare bleed together. These are not ordinary websites or games. They are door-twisted gateways into rabbit holes so disturbing that once you peer inside, you will never be the same again. A game that whispers satanic chants and flashes the faces of predators. A hidden website that seems to hire assassins in plain sight. A YouTube channel flooding the platform with cryptic signals like a digital number station. And a black screen login hiding terabytes of secrets, guarded like forbidden knowledge. Each of these mysteries leaves behind the same unsettling question. Are we looking at art, coincidence, or something far more sinister? The truth is buried, and those who dig too deep often regret ever trying. Welcome to The Price Paid, where we peel back the rotting skin of the web's most horrifying enigmas. If you dare to descend further, hit that subscribe button because once we begin, there is no turning back. In June of 2015, the world was introduced to something that seemed to crawl out of the shadows of the internet. A small YouTube channel called Obscure Horror Corner uploaded the first of a series of videos that would forever change the way people viewed horror games. The game was called Sad Satan, and at first glance, it looked like nothing more than an indie experiment, a strange walking simulator set in endless dark corridors. But the longer you watched, the more it became clear that Sad Satan was not simply a game. It was an experience, and one that seemed carefully designed to gnaw at the mind and unsettle the soul. The player walked down narrow, dimly lit passageways, walls closing in from both sides, with no clear goal and no visible way out. There were no enemies to fight, no puzzles to solve, no objectives at all. The horror did not come from being hunted by monsters, but from the suffocating emptiness of the environment itself. And then there were the interruptions. At random moments, the game would blast warped audio through the speaker's distorted music played in reverse, shrill laughter, moans, and screams. Sometimes the sound would cut out completely, leaving the player with only the sound of footsteps echoing in the hollow corridors. The images were even more disturbing. Without warning, the screen would fill with flashes of black and white photographs, cryptic symbols, or mugshots of notorious criminals. Among the most infamous was Jimmy Savile, the disgraced television personality exposed for decades of child abuse. His presence inside the game was more than unsettling. It was revolting, a reminder that real-world evil can be far more terrifying than any ghost or demon. Other flashes showed strange cult symbols and phrases written in Latin, as if the game were trying to communicate something sinister just beyond comprehension. The appearance of children, ghostly figures with pale skin and empty eyes, pushed the unease further. They would appear suddenly in the corridors, standing still or wandering in the distance, only to vanish the moment you tried to approach them. In the final gameplay video uploaded by Obscure Horror Corner, one of these children began to follow the player. No matter which way the player turned, the child was there. The video ended when the figure finally caught up and the screen went black. But the story did not end with those eerie uploads. In July of 2015, a link to download the game surfaced on 4chan's paranormal board. Anyone who dared to download it quickly realized they were not just playing with something creepy, they were opening a door to something malicious. Unlike the version shown on YouTube, this build reportedly contained images of mutilated bodies, child exploitation material, and heavy gore. To make matters worse, the files were laced with malware that corrupted systems, sometimes crashing computers entirely. Whether by design or by accident, this new version of Sad Satan spread like a curse, punishing those who were too curious. The original uploader, Jamie from Obscure Horror Corner, denied any involvement with this corrupted release, claiming his copy contained none of that illegal content. But his explanation did not hold up under scrutiny. He insisted that he had received the game from an anonymous figure on the dark web, someone going by the initials ZK. He said it had been sent through a hidden service on Tor, which made verification impossible. The problem was that no one else could ever find the original version. Every link that appeared was either corrupted, dangerous, or fake. This lack of evidence only deepened the suspicion surrounding Jamie himself. Was he really an innocent middleman who stumbled onto a sinister game? Or was he involved in something far darker? Internet investigators debated endlessly, dissecting every frame of his videos, analyzing audio, and cross-referencing details to find a trace of where Sad Satan had come from. Theories emerged quickly. Some claimed the game was an elaborate hoax, a performance piece designed to shock and disturb without any real danger. Others believed it was a digital artifact created by cult members or predators as a way to distribute horrific material under the guise of a video game. The repeated references to Savile and children seem to support this theory. There were even claims that the reversed audio snippets, when played forward, contained hidden satanic messages, including fragments of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven that inspired the game's name. The horror of Sad Satan was not just in what was shown, but in what could not be explained. Why were these particular images chosen? Why the endless corridors? Why the presence of children? Why Savile? And why the strange Latin phrases? Was the game a reflection of someone's twisted mind, a piece of underground art drenched in shock value, or was it a tool for something more sinister? To this day, no definitive answer exists. Obscure Horror Corner abandoned their channel soon after the controversy exploded, leaving behind only those 5 gameplay videos as evidence. The silence spoke louder than any explanation could. Over the years, fans have attempted to recreate Sad Satan, producing so-called clean versions with the disturbing and illegal content stripped away. These copies allowed players to experience the oppressive atmosphere without putting their machinists, their sanity at risk. Yet even in these sanitized forms, the game retains an uncanny ability to disturb. The corridors feel like they are watching you. The sound design crawls into the back of your skull, and the emptiness feels purposeful, as if the game itself is aware of your presence. Perhaps that is what makes Sad Satan so unforgettable. It is not a story that offers closure, not a mystery that has been solved. Instead, it remains an open wound on the internet's history, a reminder that the web is capable of producing horrors that blur the line between fiction and reality. Sad Satan was not the first strange game to come from the digital underground, but it is one of the few that still lingers like a ghost, haunting forums, videos, and late-night conversations years later. There is a danger in looking too closely at things like this. The internet is full of shadows, and some shadows bite back. Sad Satan serves as both a curiosity and a warning. It is proof that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not the ones we imagine, but the ones that hide inside real people who walk among us. In the end, the game's greatest horror may not be its images or its atmosphere, but the possibility that behind it all lies a network of individuals using the internet as a mask for something unspeakable. Whether it was a hoax, a ritual, or something worse, Sad Satan stands as one of the darkest rabbit holes ever discovered online. And once you know about it, you can never truly forget. On the surface, Reddit has always been a place for discussion, memes, and communities built around shared interests. But every so often, something slips through the cracks that reminds us just how deep and unsettling the internet can become. One of the most infamous examples is the mystery known as Lake City Quiet Pills, a saga that began in 2009 and still remains one of the strangest, most disturbing stories to come out of Reddit's early days. It is a tale that mixes rumor, code hidden in plain sight, and the chilling possibility that beneath the jokes and arguments of an online forum was a network of killers hiding in plain view. It all began with a Redditor known as Religion of Peace, or simply Milo. Milo was not just another anonymous user. He was already infamous for his role as a moderator of the Jailbait subreddit, a dark and controversial community that eventually got banned for its disturbing content. His reputation was tainted before the Lake City saga even began, and he enjoyed a mixture of followers who were both fascinated and repelled by his presence. Milo often claimed to be a war veteran, someone who had seen battles stretching back to the Cold War, and even went so far as to say he had been involved in Normandy, which would have made him over 80 years old at the time. Many doubted these claims, suspecting him of embellishment or outright fabrication. Yet others felt he spoke with a kind of authority that made his stories believable. On May 18th, 2009, Milo posted a link to a news site he was running called LakeCityQuietPills.com. He casually described it as that old guy's image host. To the casual observer, it seemed like nothing more than a small website where people could upload and share images, the kind of site that was common in the days before massive social media platforms dominated the internet. But the name stood out, Quiet Pills. It sounded strange, ominous, almost like code for something more sinister. At first, nobody paid much attention, but that would change. Fast forward to July 17th, 2009. Milo posted what would turn out to be his final comment on Reddit, a short rant about spam content. Just hours later, a new account under the name 26 appeared to announce that Milo had died at his desk. According to this post, Milo had no family, no friends, and only a handful of personal belongings left behind. His death might have passed quietly if not for what was discovered on the website he had once shared. Curious Redditors began to dig into the source code of LakeCityQuietPills.com, and what they found was anything but ordinary. Hidden within the HTML were strings of text that looked like job postings. But these were not ads for designers, programmers, or typical freelance gigs. The postings seemed to describe covert operations using strange military-style acronyms and language that hinted at violence. One example requested 12 ESS Spanish speaking, no papers required, while another called for 4 for 24, 7 DP, English speakers, Spanish fluency A+. The language felt cryptic, but those who recognized military jargon noticed that WW referred to wet work, a euphemism for assassinations. Suddenly, the name Quiet Pills took on a new meaning. Quiet pills weren't harmless. They were bullets. The investigation deepened when the messages in the source code appeared to align with real-world events. In January of 2010, Hamas arms dealer Mahmoud al-Mabu was assassinated in a Dubai hotel by a team of operatives using fake identities. The method of his killing, suffocation carried out with precision by multiple individuals, seemed to line up with the kind of postings listed on Lake City Quiet Pills. More chillingly, the hidden code on the site referred to a party scheduled on the exact same day. The so-called party included a detailed expense report covering hotel rooms, transportation, and medical supplies, totaling nearly 94,000. Many believed this was not a party at all, but a cover for the assassination itself. The connections did not stop there. Further digging revealed that the account 26 was tied to an older alias, Angel26, which had been active on other forums for years. This handle linked directly to the Lake City domain, even appearing in email addresses like Angel. 2.6 at Lake City Quiet Pills. Calm. The consistency suggested a long-running network rather than a spontaneous accident. Combined with the military jargon and the suspicious timing of events, the picture that emerged was of a group of ex-military operatives running clandestine missions and using a seemingly innocent website as a message board for contracts. Speculation ran wild. Some thought it was a group of professional mercenaries, soldiers of fortune who had defected from official armies and were selling their skills to the highest bidder. Others believed it was tied to intelligence agencies using a web of aliases and coded language to cover their tracks. Even the phrase Lake City Quiet Pills was traced back to the Lake City Army ammunition plant in Missouri, one of the largest producers of ammunition in the United States. The phrase now seemed less like a quirky name and more like an insider reference only someone with military connections would choose. As the theory spread, more people scoured the site for clues. What they found only added to the eerie atmosphere. Old code snippets referenced disposal, assignments, and loadouts. There were timestamps, names, and what looked like payments being tracked. While none of it could be conclusively tied to assassinations, the context and tone made it hard to dismiss. And then, just as quickly as it had come into the spotlight, the trail went cold. By the end of 2010, the site stopped updating. Eventually, it disappeared entirely. For those who had been following, the disappearance was unsettling. Had the operators abandoned it because of the attention? Or had they simply moved their operations to a different, more secure corner of the web? Some even wondered if the people running Lake City Quiet Pills had deliberately planted the information to toy with curious outsiders, creating a legend designed to mislead. But that explanation never quite satisfied. The level of detail, the timing with real-world assassinations, and the strange history of Milo himself made it all too coincidental. To this day, no one has proven what Lake City Quiet Pills really was. Was it a dark marketplace for assassins, a covert communication hub for intelligence operatives, or just an elaborate hoax born from the imagination of a morally bankrupt Redditor? The truth lies buried with Milo, whose death was the spark that lit this mystery in the first place. What makes it all the more chilling is that we may never get an answer. The evidence suggests something was happening beneath the surface, but the trail is fragmented, fading into digital silence. The internet is full of stories that blur the line between reality and urban legend. Yet Lake City Quiet Pills remains one of the most convincing and terrifying examples of a hidden underworld revealed only by accident. If it was true, then for a brief moment, the curtain was pulled back on a shadow economy of violence and death. And if it was false, it still managed to capture the collective imagination with a possibility so believable that even skeptics find themselves wondering. In the end, Lake City Quiet Pills is less about what can be proven and more about what cannot. And in that void of uncertainty, fear thrives. In the endless sea of YouTube channels, most are forgettable. Some upload funny clips, some upload music, and some build communities around shared hobbies. But every once in a while, a channel appears that feels alien, designed not for entertainment, but for something else entirely. In 2015, one of the strangest and most unsettling channels ever created emerged.
I am seeing something.
It was called Unfavorable Semicircle.
Can you zoom in on
And
that?
from the moment it began posting, it seemed to be operating outside the boundaries of normal human behavior. What started as an obscure curiosity quickly escalated into a full-blown internet mystery, one that remains unresolved to this day. The first upload appeared in March of 2015, a short 4-second clip featuring nothing but a blurry brown background and silence. The title included the Sagittarius symbol followed by a string of numbers. At first this seemed like nonsense, but then the channel continued. More videos appeared. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Within months, the channel was uploading at a rate that no single human could manage. By early 2016, it was releasing a new video every 20 seconds, each one cryptic, each one strange. By the time YouTube finally banned the channel, there were over 200,000 uploads. The videos themselves were unsettling in their monotony. Many were silent, featuring only abstract patterns, pixelated shapes, or static backgrounds. Others included distorted audio, robotic voices reading strings of numbers and letters, bursts of static or warped sounds that seemed deliberately unsettling. Some videos were a few seconds long, others lasted hours. One of the most infamous ran for 11 hours straight, nearly silent the entire time, yet rumored to cause some devices to crash when played. The sheer scale of the channel was overwhelming, like staring into an ocean of meaningless data that somehow felt purposeful. Inevitably, Reddit and other communities took notice.
Why?
Threads popped up trying to decode the mystery. Was this an art project? An alternate reality game? Or was it something darker, like a digital number station broadcasting hidden instructions to operatives across the globe? The Sagittarius symbol in nearly every title only added to the enigma. Why that zodiac sign? Why the astronomical theme? Some speculated it was a clue pointing toward a larger puzzle, but no clear answers ever emerged. Comparisons were made to WebDriver Torso, a YouTube channel run by Google to test video compression, which also uploaded thousands of short, abstract clips. But Unfavorable Semicircle felt different. It was darker, more intentional, and loaded with bizarre details that didn't fit the explanation of quality testing. WebDriver Torso never used distorted voices, strange symbols, or mysterious file names. Unfavorable Semicircle seemed to want to be noticed, and at the same time it seemed to mock those who tried to understand it. Theories multiplied. One of the most popular was that it was indeed a modern-day number station. During the Cold War, shortwave radios broadcast sequences of numbers and words to relay secret information to spies. The strange voices and symbols on Unfavorable Semicircle could have served the same purpose, hidden in plain sight on the world's biggest video platform. Others thought it was part of an ARG, a vast interactive puzzle designed to lead participants on a chase across the internet. But most ARGs provide some sense of direction, breadcrumbs that guide players toward a conclusion. This channel gave nothing, no context, no clues, no resolution. Some insisted it was a psychological experiment. The sheer volume of content, the relentless uploads, and the eerie repetition seemed designed to test the patience, reactions, and interpretations of those who stumbled across it. Others leaned toward more sinister possibilities, speculating that it was a front for illegal activity, a smokescreen concealing data transfers, or even coded communication for criminals. The sheer size of the channel made it theoretically possible to hide files or encrypted messages within the frames of its videos, an idea that added another layer of dread. The community that formed around the mystery spent countless hours analyzing the uploads. People combed through frame by frame, listening carefully to the distorted audio, and comparing notes on patterns. One breakthrough seemed to come when certain videos, titled Lock and Delock, were examined. By piecing together frames from these videos, investigators discovered a grainy image that resembled NASA's Voyager Golden Record, the disk sent into space as a message to extraterrestrials. If this was deliberate, it suggested intelligence behind the chaos, an effort to embed meaning in the noise. But if so, what was the message? And who was it intended for? Toward the end of the channel's existence, a new series of uploads appeared under the title Brill. These videos seemed more structured than the rest, suggesting a change in the project's purpose or a new phase. But before anyone could decode them, the channel was gone. On February 25, 2016, just hours after the BBC published an article about Unfavorable Semicircle, YouTube banned the channel for violating its terms of service. No explanation was ever given. but many assumed it was flagged as spam due to the sheer number of uploads. Others suspected that YouTube may have known something more, perhaps receiving pressure to shut it down. The mystery did not end there. After the channel's termination, strange accounts appeared on Google+ and Twitter, briefly posting similar cryptic content before vanishing. In 2017, a final video titled Reset, once again featuring the Sagittarius symbol, was uploaded. It lasted only 30 minutes before it was deleted. Since then, nothing has resurfaced. The silence has been deafening, and the lack of closure only makes the whole saga more unsettling. Unfavorable Semicircle is one of those rabbit holes that leave you with more questions than answers. Was it an elaborate hoax? A piece of avant-garde art hidden in the noise of the internet? Was it a covert communication method cleverly disguised as spam? Or was it something even stranger, an experiment whose true purpose will never be known? Whatever the truth, the channel has carved its place in the annals of digital horror. It is a reminder that, in the vast ocean of online content, not everything is meant to be understood. Sometimes, the internet shows us things that defy explanation, and it is in that uncertainty where fear takes root. To look back on Unfavorable Semicircle is to remember that some mysteries exist not to be solved, but to unsettle. It forces us to confront the idea that behind the screen, behind the constant stream of videos and information, there are forces and motives we cannot begin to comprehend. Perhaps it was nothing, or perhaps it was everything, and that is why people still whisper about it years after it vanished. The channel left no clear answers, only an endless series of strange symbols and distorted sounds that echo in the minds of those who dared to watch. Like the static of an old radio or the hum of an empty room, it lingers, unresolved and deeply disturbing. In the late 1990s, the internet was a frontier, a chaotic and largely uncharted landscape. Websites were often simple, static pages, and even the largest sites, by today's standards, were crude experiments in digital communication. But amid that primitive era of dial-up tones and endless loading bars, there was one site that stood out like a black hole, drawing in curiosity and repelling answers. It was called Mortis.com, and for more than 2 decades, it has remained one of the internet's most disturbing unsolved mysteries. Mortis.com first went live on November 14th, 1997. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a plain black screen with a white text login prompt. No instructions, no links, no explanations. You were greeted only with a request for a username and password, and unless you had them, you could go no further. That alone was strange, but not unprecedented. What made Mortis.com legendary was what lay behind the curtain, or rather, what people believed was behind it. Investigators quickly discovered that the domain was not empty. In fact, it hosted terabytes of data. This was staggering for the time, when hard drives were measured in megabytes, not terabytes. One file alone was said to be 39 gigabytes, a size almost unimaginable in the era of dial-up connections. Whoever ran the site had access to storage and resources far beyond the average internet user of 1997. The name itself added to the unsettling aura. Mortis is Latin for death. Whether the choice was symbolic, edgy, or intentional, it set the tone immediately. You were not entering a cheerful corner of the web, you were knocking at the door of something dark. Curiosity spread quickly through forums like 4chan and Something Awful, where users began speculating about the purpose of the site. Some claimed to have gained access, downloading fragments of the data before the site went offline, though they never revealed what they found. Their silence only made the mystery deeper. Had they been threatened? Did they find something too horrifying to share? Or had they found nothing at all and chosen to protect their reputations by pretending otherwise? Then came the strangest detail. Most websites, even after they shut down, leave traces behind. The Wayback Machine, a tool designed to archive pages, is full of snapshots from the internet's early years. But Mortis.com was excluded. The site was deliberately hidden from archiving, blocked by a robots TXT file that told crawlers to stay away. This was not an accident. Whoever built Mortis.com went out of their way to erase their tracks, ensuring the site could never be indexed or preserved. That choice alone raised alarm bells. If it was simply a personal project or a storage space, why hide it so thoroughly? Digging deeper, people uncovered connections between Mortis.com and a man named Ling, who was linked to other strange domains. Cthulhu, Net, Eternal Night, Com, Karen Ling, and Joshua.org. Each of these sites carried the same cryptic energy. Cthulhu, Net displayed only the words "dead but dreaming." Eternal night. Com showed a glowing chess piece against a black background. Others led to dead ends or supposedly belonged to non-existent interior design companies. Even more bizarre, some of the addresses tied to these domains turned out to be empty lots, businesses that didn't exist, or companies registered to people who were long dead. The whole web of domains felt like a carefully constructed maze, as if someone had built a digital labyrinth designed to confuse and mislead. Rumors of government involvement soon spread. Some claimed that hackers who tried to break into Mortis.com were contacted by the FBI and warned off. Others said the site itself was shut down after attracting too much attention, either by Ling himself or by authorities who didn't want its contents exposed. But because nothing concrete was ever revealed, speculation only grew. What could have been hidden inside files that massive? Why go to such extreme lengths to hide it? Theories multiplied over the years. The most innocent explanation was that it was nothing more than a private server, a place for storing large media collections, movies, TV shows, or backups of personal files. But this doesn't explain the eerie aesthetic, the Latin name, or the fake companies and empty addresses. Others believed it was a front for criminal activity, a black market server trading in drugs, human trafficking, or worse. The whispers of snuff films attached themselves to Mortis.com, and though there is no evidence to support this, the idea has lingered. The site's secrecy, the sheer amount of data, and the deliberate attempt to hide from indexing make the theory plausible enough to remain frightening. Even today, the domain itself has taken on the status of an urban legend. People recall the stories of massive files, hackers disappearing from forums, and the alleged FBI warnings. None of it has been proven, but the absence of proof almost makes it more compelling. Unlike many mysteries that leave a trail of breadcrumbs, Mortis.com leaves nothing but an empty space. And in that void, the imagination runs wild. The very act of exclusion from the Wayback Machine feels like a challenge, as if the site is taunting us with what we are not allowed to see. When questioned about the site, Ling reportedly downplayed it all, claiming Mortis.com was nothing more than a storage space for personal photos and files, including things like wedding pictures. But no one believed him. Why would someone need terabytes of encrypted storage for wedding photos in the late 1990s? Why would those files require industrial-grade security? And why would the site be tied to so many fake identities and ghost businesses? The explanation felt like an insult to anyone who had looked into the matter. In the end, Mortis.com remains one of the most enigmatic corners of the internet. Unlike other mysteries, which eventually reveal themselves to be hoaxes, art projects, or misunderstood experiments, Mortis has never been explained. The files were never released. The truth was never revealed, and the trail has gone cold. That silence is part of what makes it so terrifying. It is a reminder that the internet, for all its convenience and humor, has dark places where answers are not meant to be found. Perhaps Mortis.com really was nothing more than a forgotten personal server, the product of a man who liked gothic names and creepy aesthetics. Or perhaps it was something much worse, a hub for criminal operations hiding behind the simple facade of a login screen. The truth will likely never be known, and maybe that is for the best, because sometimes what lies behind locked doors is not meant to be opened. Mortis.com endures not because of what it revealed, but because of what it refused to show us. And in that silence, it has become one of the most chilling internet rabbit holes of all time. The 4 rabbit holes we have explored: Sad Satan, Lake City Quiet Pills, Unfavorable, Semicircle, and Mortis. Share one haunting similarity: they lead nowhere certain. Each begins with a strange discovery, a clue, or a piece of content that should not exist. Then, as curious minds begin to pry deeper, the answers only grow darker, more fragmented, and more disturbing. None of these mysteries have ever been resolved, and maybe that is the point. They remind us that the internet is not just a place of entertainment and convenience. It is a labyrinth, one where some paths should never be walked. Sad Satan showed us how a game can transcend its form and become something more sinister, a possible vehicle for real-world evil wrapped in the trappings of digital horror. The corridors, the children, the cryptic symbolset all seemed like a reflection of human depravity hidden inside a piece of code. Lake City Quiet Pills hinted at an invisible underworld, a place where mercenaries might communicate using seemingly harmless websites, their language cloaked in acronyms and secrecy, their operations tied to actual assassinations. Unfavorable, Semicircle took us in a different direction, overwhelming the senses with sheer scale. burying possible meaning in a flood of cryptic content, reminding us that not all signals are meant to be understood. And Mortis, calm, the oldest of them all, remains locked behind a simple login screen, guarding terabytes of unknown data, mocking every attempt to uncover its purpose. What binds these stories together is not proof, but uncertainty. And it is that uncertainty that unsettles us most. Human beings crave resolution, but in these cases, there is none. Instead, we are left with speculation, rumor, and fear. Was Sad Satan created by predators or cultists? Was Lake City Quiet Pills a front for assassins? Was Unfavorable Semicircle a psychological experiment or a secret communication channel? Was Mortiscom simply a storage site or something far more sinister? The absence of answers leaves us haunted, because the mind fills the gaps with its own nightmares. The lesson, perhaps, is caution. Curiosity drives us to explore, but not all doors should be opened. Sometimes what waits on the other side is dangerous, not just to your computer, but to your sanity, even your safety. The internet's darkest corners are not playgrounds for the curious. They are traps, baited with mystery and protected by silence. If you ever stumble into one of these rabbit holes, remember that you are not just a spectator. By digging deeper, you are becoming part of the story. And the story rarely ends well for those who refuse to turn back. These mysteries are fascinating, yes, but fascination has a price. And often, that price is far greater than what we are willing to pay. Welcome to The Price Paid, where we confront the internet's most horrifying enigmas and remind you that some mysteries are better left unsolved. If you dare to keep exploring with us, subscribe now, because once you enter, there is no escape from the shadows that follow.